Right, so I came across this video and I found it quite interesting considering my knowledge, my experience, my growing expertise, if you want to call it that, what I'm studying for, and all of that. I am a computer nerd. I was in school for computer engineering. I am currently, if anybody's been following me, been studying for, well, past the A plus already. I'm studying for the Network Plus, which I should actually be taking on the last day of this month, but that might get pushed back a little bit. Then I'll be studying for the Security Plus as well, CompTIA certs, right? I also I worked at CompUSA when they were here, Micro Center, down in Rockville, Maryland. That used to be the CompUSA in the same space, and Best Buy's Geek Squad, right? So, of course, I learned back in high school how to build and fix computers and set up networks and all that stuff. So, I have the certs, I have the experience and all of that. I have the official pieces of paper. And when I see stuff like this, it really kind of gets a little bit disheartening to me. Well, not even disheartening, but I guess I get a little bit suspicious. So it says like, why big tech? This is CNBC, and this was just a couple days ago. Why big tech wants you to ditch your password, right? And so we're going to go through this video, and then I'm going to show you a very simple way to make the most secure passwords and have them secure, and make pretty much all of this null and void. Now, most of the breaches that happen with stuff does not happen through the front door, i.e. through somebody getting your laptop or phone or whatever and breaking into it and stealing all your stuff and getting into your... No. It happens one of two ways. Either A, you were caught slipping, to quote the streets, and somebody fooled you either with like a phishing attack or something like that. You made a crap password, which you've been advised from day one not to do. Make sure these passwords are not easy or short or something, and I'm going to show you how to get past that today. And the third one, and probably the biggest one, is on the back end. How many times have we heard this company got hacked, that company got hacked? It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter password, biometrics, whatever, armed guards. If they're getting in because the company's security is such shit, well, then that's not really the fault of the password, whether it's strong or weak, now is it? All right? And banks are probably the most notorious for this, all right? Every 2 seconds they're getting hacked, and then they go and let it be known to you, the public, whenever they decide to let you know, which probably means that they knew like months ago, right? So it's just... Anyway, let's go through this video, and then at the end of this video I will show you what I do to secure my passwords, to where I have hundreds of well, not hundreds, but a lot of passwords for different things. It's different passwords for every single account that I have, and all of it is secured by one password that's 16 digits long that I remember. It's seemingly random, but it's actually not, because it's tied to video game characters, and I'll remember it no matter what. I'll also show you tell you the problems with their supposed solutions. Let's get started.
Passwords are like the cockroaches of the internet. They really, despite all of our best efforts, they're very hard to kill off, and companies have been trying to do it for years.
The average office worker in the United States must keep track of between 20 to 40 different username and password combinations.
And of course, I will show you how to keep track of that, because I actually have more than 40 password combinations for different accounts I have all over the internet. So I will show you how to keep track of those, because there's no way in hell I'm going to remember all of those, obviously.
With so many passwords to remember, it's no wonder why many of us use the same ones over and over, or have a running list of passwords saved somewhere on our computers, phones, or notebooks. Passwords are a very serious and expensive security risk. It's why companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Google are trying to reduce our dependence on them.
And considering the amount of data breaches that they have had, well, not only breaches, but where they have just been caught giving away people's data, and actually getting people's data without their either knowledge and or consent, I'm not really trying to trust these heavy hitters, these big wigs, whatever the hell you want to call them, fat cats, whatever, with knowing what's best for me in my privacy and security endeavors. I'd rather deal with it myself, but then again, I'm not the quote-unquote average user, so I just told you my background. You've seen other videos where I've like showed you my credentials, so it might be a little bit different for me. But if the average person is fooled by this, that's the problem right there, right? Is that they're believing that these people want to actually help you when really anyway, moving right along.
But the question is, can these companies break our bad habits? Passwords by themselves are just not that secure.
That is actually not true. The reason why they might not be secure is because they're too short or too simple, right? Trust me, yes, any password can be broken with enough time. In the case of, like, for example, servers and stuff, a simple way to get around that is to make a long as hell password that you can remember, right? And then also, so that no brute forcing attacks can happen, for example, not even so much change it every so often, but just make it so that the system locks down, or at the very least locks out any more attempts after, say, I don't know, 3 or 5 guesses. I don't care how strong the computer is. I don't care if it's the world's strongest supercomputer or all the supercomputers on the planet running in parallel. You're not going to guess a password in 5 guesses before the system locks down if the password is, I don't know, 16 digits long, right? Or, God forbid, more. The reason why passwords supposedly aren't secure is because people are not following security best practices. That's the reason why. It's not because passwords in and of themselves are insecure.
In the 2015 interview with John Oliver, Edward Snowden explained just how easy it is to crack a typical password.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's about to explain it right here, right now.
Bad passwords are one of the easiest ways to compromise a system.
Notice what he said. Bad passwords. Bad passwords. For example, what I'm about to do later, eBay. Apparently eBay lets you put in, I believe, either 92 characters or something, or 100 and something characters long as a password. And guess what I did? I filled up all 100 and whatever of it. My eBay password is 100 something characters long. And you'll see exactly how I'm able to do that and still log in there, because obviously I'm not typing that in, right? You'll see it later. Bad passwords. Remember what he said.
For somebody who has a very common 8-character password, it can literally take less than a second for a computer to go through the possibilities and pull that password out.
I think we're going to have a no password.
So number 1, it's 8 passwords as opposed to 16, which is probably the minimum standard for a strong password. And number 2, it's simple, right? So it's not even 8 and complex. It's 8 and simple. Again, bad security best practices, or not following security best practices. That is what messes passwords up, and that's what makes it seem like, oh, they're all so insecure. It's really because people are lazy. And the reason for that laziness is because security and privacy versus convenience are more or less, a lot more than less, opposed. You can have high convenience, and probably the easiest convenience is having passwords saved in your browser in the form of cookies and stuff like that, right? When a website asks you, do you want to save your username and password? Anybody who knows anything about security would be like, no, Absolutely not. But that's not convenient. It's more secure, but it's not convenient. Whereas telling these websites, no, do not save my password ever, and by the way, don't ask me again, F off, that is more secure, but less convenient. People go for the convenience. Convenience is not secure. And I think any security, any security, be it physical security with armed guards or whatever, or cybersecurity will tell you, convenience is not secure. Security is not convenient. You're going to have to give up one to get the other. More or less. A lot more than less.
Future, because it just gets rid of a lot of problems. You never know when the bad guy has your password at the end of the day.
That's Kevin Mitnick.
That is true. And the reason for that is not because, more oftentimes than not because they went and brute forced, black hatted their way into your system off some matrix business. No. It's because you had a weak password. For example, with your wireless network, wireless router, you went and left the default password that came with the company, right? That the company put in there. You left that on there, and so they were able to get it, and so they were able to get into your system, right? It's not the password. It's not the password itself that was the problem. It's you that was the problem, right? So no, it is not the passwords.
He's pretty well known in the hacker community.
I started off many, many years ago as a black hat hacker. I wasn't hacking to cause harm or to make money. It was all about the intellectual challenge, curiosity, and seduction of adventure. And then I pushed the envelope, and I pushed it so far, I became the world's most wanted hacker, and I was pursued by federal law enforcement agencies, and they eventually caught up with me, and I ended up serving 5 years in federal prison.
Nowadays, Mitnick says he's an ethical hacker, assisting companies to identify their security vulnerabilities and helping to fix them. And
Ethical hacker. I always did like that name. Ethical hacker. To me, that's just like, I am a lovable or gentle rapist. I don't know. I don't know. It's just funny to me. But that's nothing else. That's something else.
Your usernames and passwords? It's much easier than you might think.
There's a site out there called WeLeakInfo.com. So what WeLeakInfo is, it's a site that has aggregated a bunch of data breaches. And so what happens is the data, namely your username and passwords that are on these data breaches, get aggregated because they're publicly available.
Notice these data, the username and passwords that are on these data. Notice what he says, on these data breaches. I'm sorry, when Google or Facebook or MySpace, geez, I remember that, where these banks get hacked, me having biometrics, face recognition, passwords, good or bad, or anything else, two-factor, two-step factor authentication, whatever you want to come up with, is not going to work. In fact, I will put it, first of all, what he just said, this site, this video, as you see here, was put up January 21st, 2020, right? And he wouldn't mention that site, we have your info, or whatever the hell it is. Well, okay, this is not it. That's privacy.io, privacytools.io, very nice site. You should go here and read up and follow their recommendations. It looks a little messed up because I have over here JavaScript disabled. I need to actually allow that. Refresh. Yeah. Okay. And I'm glad that they don't have other stuff. Whoops. And I'm glad that they don't have other JavaScripts here as well. Anyway, this is not the tool. This is the one. WeLeakInfo.com that they just mentioned has been seized by the FBI in I guess partnership or in coordination with German. This is probably Polish, Ireland, and this is probably Britain, I'm guessing. I'm not sure. Whatever, but in concert with them, it's been seized. So there's that. And again, this was just put out January 21st, 2020. But of course, these are all clips of different things. So he could have said this interview maybe like months or years ago. Who knows? So there's that. But again, he said data breaches. He didn't say, oh, they hacked into your phone or your computer on your at home. No, data breaches, which means they got to the company. So what's the company doing? Why their servers keep getting raped like that? Which also leads down to what I said right here. And you can see it right here. I will read it off. Quote, nope. And that's in all caps and bolded. That's a smooth negative on giving up my supposedly random, it's not random actually, but it seems like it, random char 16-digit password on things like my BitLocker flash drive and internal drive. I'll actually show that here. Right here, you see the little lock here? This actually is unlocked right now. This one is not. My Terra storage is not locked right now. See? And this is another thing. When you do BitLocker, look at the more options. Well, okay, there's fewer options. When you create BitLocker, you have a option to have the password essentially saved on the system to where you just plug in the device and it automatically unlocks. That is not good. Remember what I said about convenience versus security and privacy? That is more convenient than having to remember a password. It is less secure. In fact, that is how it seemed like BitLocker was able to be hacked. BitLocker so far, as of... come on now. As of Monday, January 27, 2020 at 3:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is not able to be hacked. But the reason why it seemed like it was is because people kept clicking on that option to have it automatically unlock when you plug it into a known system that you trust, like your laptop or something. Well, the problem is that it saves those things in, like, I believe it's memory dumps, like memory dump files. Basically, they can do a memory dump and get the password that way. And that's what made it seem like BitLocker. Oh my God, the great BitLocker was able to be hacked. No, it wasn't. It's because of that bit of convenience that fucked with privacy and security. That's the problem. So every single time I type it in. Now I type it in once this session and it stays in, fine. But when I reset my computer and the memory gets wiped, I have to come back, I have to retype it in. It's not going to automatically log me in. So there is that. Moving right along, what did I say here? BitLocker, flash drive, and internal drive. You just saw those. My password isn't getting hacked unless the server owned by X company gets hacked. In which case, quote-unquote bad actors are getting in through the back door, window, chimney, etc. Not the front door being directly from me. With face recognition, and do keep this in mind for later, with face recognition / fingerprint, all someone, say the cops, have to do is hold your phone up to your face or physically force your finger on the sensor, like cops aren't going to do that, or some crazy ex-girlfriend, who knows, or crazy current girlfriend, who knows, wife, which one's worse, them or the cops? It's a very good question. Sensor, and there goes everything. I have a text file that has all the passwords I made from strong random password generator, all saved to a BitLocker flash drive that I type in one 16-digit password. BitLocker also isn't set to store my password, so it can't be gotten from a memory dump. Simple fact is, strong passwords are secure. People and companies are just lazy. And that's what I wrote 14 minutes ago, or probably more. So there's that. Let's keep going.
And there are sites that like Leak Info, that kind of make it like the Google, where you can actually just put in an email address of yourself or a friend, and all the prior data breaches that contained your username or your email address, it actually reveals the password.
And again, they've been seized, but as I've found out, there are other sites just like it That's not the only one, so there's that. But that specific one he mentioned has been seized, as you just saw. Yeah.
All it takes to find the site is a quick Google search, and users can get access to more than 10,000 data breaches for as low as $2. And it's not even the only website to offer these services.
Oh, well, there you go.
Simply put, passwords are not fit for purpose for today's network economy. They present challenges to consumers in the sense that they're either hard to remember or they're too easy to remember, in which case they're easier to mimic and steal. For businesses, they represent a huge liability in the sense that the vast majority of data breaches are caused by passwords. Either
Again, I have to wonder, I'd love to see how they came by that. Data breaches caused by passwords. Okay. Your system should be hardened, your network should be hardened to the point where they're not able. There's just so much stuff. Look, there's social engineering. You know, you get somebody drunk and they go and run their mouth. I know that from my Uber days in DC. Somebody went and left their laptop open. It's not the passwords. That's all I can say. It is not the passwords. Somebody messed up somewhere. Either the password was weak, it should have been stronger. Let's see now. Again, somebody went and left. So somebody was like shoulder surfing or whatever and saw your stuff. You weren't aware of your surroundings. Just so many other factors. But it's not the password in and of itself. Okay? It's really not.
passwords that slip from an employee and expose a database, or allows other bad actors to
Actually, hold on. What did you just say?
passwords that slip from an employee.
That slip from an employee. Why is it slipping? Catching them slipping, what I just said. Why is it slipping from an employee? Well, that's the employee then. That's not the password. How the hell does a password slip from an employee? Passwords shouldn't be written down anyway. How do they slip?
And expose a database, or allows other bad actors to get into their systems. So passwords, present challenges across the board.
A report that looked at 2013
Bad security practices instead of best security practices presents challenges across the board. The simple fact of the matter is, if you want to do biometrics or you want to do biometrics, fingerprint, facial recognition, iris scan, or whatever, that shit has to be saved somewhere. Whether it's local, whether it's on the cloud, whatever, it has to be saved somewhere. That too is going to present some challenges. And unlike passwords, where you can, okay, the damages have been done, but you can recover because you have backups, right? You have fucking backups, right? And then you can just change the password and now it's all over again. They got to go brute force or hack or whatever, or social engineer, sweet talk the only female head of engineering and whatever, or I don't know, have some tits and ass walk by the male head of engineering and he actually thinks that she's interested in him. Whatever. You got to do it all over again. With biometrics, that shit is out there. That stuff's not changing. So if they have access to your biometrics, that's pretty much permanently game over, as opposed to a very annoying temporary game over with a password that got leaked. So, but they're not telling you this.
data breaches found that 29% of those breaches involved the use of stolen credentials. In another study, researchers found that the average cost of a data breach in the US was more than $8 million. And even when passwords are not stolen, companies can lose a lot of money resetting them.
Our research has shown...
Again, okay, I'm going to show you how you will probably never need to do that again. I can't... let's see. Yeah, I've never had to... With my system, which, I say my system, I'm sure somebody else has done this as well, but I thought of it on my own. Like I didn't get it from anybody, so my system. I have never had to call anybody to reset a password, right? Never had to. Never even had to use the forgot password and type in this and that. Never had to. Now again, I'll show it to you later.
That the average fully loaded cost of a help desk call to reset a password is anywhere between $40 or $50 per call. Generally,
I'd like to know. I'd like to see how they came by that. I'd like to see the white paper write-ups on that. How they came by that.
speaking, a typical employee contacts a help desk about somewhere between 6 and 10 times a year on password-related issues. So if you just do the simple multiplication of 6 to 10 times $50 per call times the number of employees in your organization, you're talking significantly hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even
$50 per call. Okay. Yeah, sure. All right.
millions of dollars a year, and that's just really the IT operations cost. That's not really factoring necessarily the productivity cost that gets lost by the user having to wait for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or even longer to actually have the password issue resolved to their satisfaction.
In large companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Google, with upwards of 100,000 employees each, these costs can quickly add up. A former Microsoft executive told CNN in 2018 that the company spends more than $2 million each month in help desk calls, helping people to change their passwords. With the details of our personal and professional lives increasingly residing in the digital realm, those costs are likely to grow. The first use of the computer password dates back to the early 1960s at MIT. At the time, computers were these huge contraptions that could only manage the work of one person at a time. This limitation frustrated Fernando Corbato, who came up with the computer time-sharing system. CTSS was an operating system which distributed a computer's processing power so that multiple people could use it at once. This naturally led to the issue of privacy, so Corbato created the password. Ironically, the first computer to use passwords was also the first one to be hacked. One of the researchers in Corbato's lab found that he needed more time to complete his work than the weekly hours allotted to him. So he printed out all the passwords stored on the system and used them to log in as his colleagues.
Is that security best practices? Right.
The conventional rules of password creation adopted by companies, federal agencies, and universities were attributed to a document released by the National Institute of Standards and Technology in 2004. The document suggested that users should have a minimum of 8-character passwords, and that those passwords should include at least one uppercase letter, one lowercase letter, one number, and one special character, and be changed regularly. But in 2017, NIST rewrote the password rules. This time, the agency suggested using long, easy-to-remember phrases instead of crazy characters, and only changing your password if it might have been hacked. Passwords have come a long way since the 1960s. With innovations such as fingerprint readers and face scanning on smartphones, verifying your identity now often goes beyond just entering a password. This comes in the form of two-factor and two-step authentication.
There's 3 forms of authentication. One is what you know, such as a password or a PIN. The second thing is what you have, so possession of a device in your hands. And the third means of authentication is who you are.
Actually, there's a bit more as well. I think there's actually at least 5. There's these 3 that they mentioned. There could also be the time of day, which I believe is what called temporal. No, not temporal, but time of day. And then, of course, geolocation, like, where are you? Like, okay, if you have all this stuff, but your ass is in Antarctica somewhere, you don't need access to our system. So, yeah, all this is correct, but, and hell, even the time of day is correct, but your location is not. So, yeah, nah. There's more than 3, which, and the fact that they didn't even mention that tells me that, I mean, I don't want to say that they're outdated, because when it comes down to it, they're more, well, I mean, hell, on paper and by everyone's logic, they're more experts than I am. Hell, I'm sitting here working on my Network Plus, but here it is. I just mentioned 2 more that they didn't mention. He said that there's 3. There's more than 3. I think there's 5, if not more than 5. But as far as I can tell, there are 5. So, Just because they're experts, credentialed, PhD, whatever, doesn't mean that they are always right.
The password alone is the highest risk way of authenticating, and that leads to phishing and data breaches and all the nefarious things we see on the web today. Any form of two-factor authentication is better than passwords alone. What I want to note, though, is that not all two-factor authentication is created equal. Things like getting SMS messages, so a text message with a PIN code, is both inconvenient but also can be spoofed and is not a foolproof means of second-factor authentication.
NIST even restricted the use of one-time passwords being sent over SMS as a means of two-factor authentication. For something to be two-factor versus two-step, the authentication elements must come from two separate categories. An example of two-factor authentication is withdrawing money from an ATM. First, you insert your bank card, something that you possess, and then you are asked for a PIN, something that you know. Biometrics are the newest form of authentication and have risen in popularity thanks to smartphones that include fingerprint readers and face scanning cameras. Meanwhile, digital assistants like Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant have advanced voice recognition technologies. In fact, a number of banks, including Chase and Barclays, now allow their customers to verify their identity using voice biometrics. When customers call in, their voice is automatically matched to a previously recorded voice print that's made up of more than 100 characteristics such as pitch, accent, and shape of your mouth. One organization that's been at the forefront of bringing two-factor authentication standards to the masses is the FIDO Alliance. The FIDO Alliance, which stands for Fast Identity Online, is a consortium of more than 250 companies who are working together to reduce the industry's reliance on passwords by standardizing two-factor authentication.
Yeah. Anytime I see a giant group of anything, I watch that group, and I wouldn't say I'm suspicious, just in and of itself, just, oh my God, suspicious, but I watch them. In the case of these people here, all these group of people aligning, forming an alliance or a cooperation to get rid of passwords like this. Considering the amount of data breaches they have had, where they were the problem, not the individual user and their passwords, but yet here it is, they want you to get rid of. No. The moment you go and link something as permanent as, I don't know, my fingerprint, unless my fingers get burnt off or something, or hell, next step is just going to be flat out DNA, your DNA sequence, right? Yeah, that bit of information has to be stored somewhere. And I don't trust any of these companies, considering their track record, with that. Okay? Trust them with the passwords, maybe, okay, get stored on the cloud, alright, whatever. Or maybe not even get stored, but maybe the hash, right? Much like with logging into Windows or logging into whatever. It's not actually storing the password itself, it stores the hash, right? You match the hash of it. That I will trust with them. I'm not going to trust myself, literally myself, with them. No. I don't advise anybody to trust these people. That's just me, though. In fact, I'll go get my tinfoil hat. Fine, if that's what you want to label me as, I will go get my tinfoil. Where is that hat? Where the hell is that hat?
This past year, we've seen FIDO become a core part of the Android and Windows operating systems, meaning that any Android 7 or later handset or any Windows 10 machine, you can leverage actual onboard biometrics of that device, so a fingerprint reader, a face scanner, whatever it might be, to log in rather than using passwords.
Other companies that work with the FIDO Alliance include eBay, Facebook, Twitter, PayPal, and Bank of America. Even the US government has adopted the standard. FIDO's big advantage over other standards comes down to where it stores users' personal information.
The core problem with passwords is that they reside on a server. The problem with that is that when it sits on a server, they can be stolen by a hacker. Additionally, someone can impersonate you quite easily, either by phishing your credentials or by buying your credentials off the dark web. And then,
all right, so with that, sits on a server. Well, that server should be secured down. I mean, hell, there's so many things. Like, I'm sitting here reading just through the Network Plus I haven't even started Security Plus yet, and yet I'm seeing so many ways of you to secure stuff that the amount of resources it takes to hack some stuff is like, yo, this really, especially if you're going to brute force it, that's not really efficient. This is really bloody, really messy, and unimaginative, right? The reason why these servers and stuff are getting hacked so much is because of bad practices. If they employ the strictest practices, they wouldn't have anywhere near as much of a problem to where, oh, we just need to get rid of passwords. You have the most secure door in the world, but you're too lazy to close and lock it. Oh, we need to get rid of the door. You see the problem? You see the problem, right? Next thing, okay, somebody goes and phishes it. Well, again, that is again not the passwords. Somebody goes, you go and fall for a phishing attack. That is you not employing security best practices. No, you did not. No, nobody from, I'm sorry, madam or sir, but nobody from Africa gives a fuck about you. The prince does not need your help, right? The prince with all his millions of dollars, billions of dollars in gold does not need your one help here in the suburbs, right? To transport his money for whatever the hell. No, you have not won some publisher's clearinghouse business. No, you have not. Stop falling for the bullshit. Like, just learn how to read websites and see, hey, I'm supposed to be logging into Bank of America, but this thing says, haha, you dumb motherfucker.com, right? And there's no security lock there. The thing isn't green. Like, learn how to properly function. This is the user themselves. This is not the password. And that is my point. Phishing is strictly people. You decide to go and type in your stuff. Like, really, Bank of them, like, you haven't ordered anything off eBay for like a year, but yet eBay's saying, hey, we noticed you tried to log in. Please confirm whatever. No. Come on. That is the problem, is the people. It's not the passwords.
And trying to stuff them into the account. Everything FIDO does is local on the device, which does a couple things.
Oh, yeah, last thing, dark web. Dark web is only going to get your information if you put it there. If they get it from some other external entity, which again, what's their security practices, why they were able to get it, data breaches. Why were there breaches? That had nothing to do with me. No matter how good my security best practices are, if the server from Bank of America or Chase or Discover, American Express, whoever, PayPal, gets hacked, I'm screwed. And now all my stuff is out there. It doesn't just manifest on the dark web. It has to get there by somebody putting it there. And they usually are able to get it because somewhere in the chain, in the link, in the line, whatever, someone did not put proper security best practices in. You know, it's kind of like a car. You want the car to last? You do the routine maintenance, like clockwork. Ooh, car didn't. I mean, now, of course, some cars are just better than others, right? Chrysler versus Toyota, right? But all of them are going to last longer than they normally would have if you just simply do the maintenance. If a car breaks prematurely, short of just a manufacturer defect, which is usually found out relatively quickly, you can usually trace a car failing due to not putting proper maintenance in. That form or fashion of logic applies here. Got a breach, got a security, data got leaked, information got leaked because somewhere somebody didn't employ the best maintenance, i.e. security best practice.
One, it's easier, but two, perhaps most important.
See what he says? One, it's easier. Well, that's nice. Do you want convenience or do you want security? The more secure you are, the less convenient it's going to be. The more convenient, the less secure. Yes, there's got to be a middle ground there where it's both, but then it might not be that convenient and it still isn't all that secure, so you might have to pick one rather than trying to ride the fence. But notice what he just said. One, it's easier. Well, there goes the problem right there.
Privacy. Right? So you can always change your password if it's hacked, but you really can't take your face back. You can't take your fingerprint back. So it's very important that companies that are using biometrics use local match biometrics, meaning match on device, which is what FIDO supports, to protect user privacy and have enhanced user experience.
Now, that obviously makes enough sense. Okay, yes, it's done local. It's not done remote or done over the cloud. It's not done over the internet. Here's the problem. I just don't trust you guys. I don't trust you guys, you know? It's like, okay, so I would trust this if it was 100% open sourced, where it got filtered through the world and everybody found everywhere where a bit of source code is dialing back the mothership or some crap like that. But if it's going to be some proprietary crap, or it's open source amongst the closed off doors of companies but not available to the rest of the world for analysis and dissection, no. Sorry. No, right? It's just, I just do, like, if the US government said, okay, well, here's a device that's going to be local and all the same FIDO stuff, but instead of different companies, it's going to be done by the US government. They're going to give you a device, it's free, whatever, and it's all going to be local authentication and verification. Nobody's going to trust that, right? It's local. It's just a dongle you plug into USB or Thunderbolt or whatever. Nobody's going to trust it. And that's the point. I just don't trust these people, considering how badly they managed, a lot of them, to keep getting all these breaches, how badly they managed their network or their infrastructure. I just don't trust them no, don't trust them at all.
Microsoft has been hinting about getting rid of the password for years.
Now let me move over to my Surface Pro 4. I don't know if you noticed what happened. It recognized that I was just standing in front of the computer and it logged me in. And this is the power of Windows Hello, where it does the face recognition and logs you right in. I mean, think about one of the biggest issues of security is passwords. So
and of course, I'm sure somebody probably already put this in the comment section by now, but if you have a twin, yeah, identical twin, and then of course there's all this bit of stuff with cloning going on now. Like, when cloning becomes mainstream, like Toyota Corollas are mainstream, all this biometrics security crap is now null and void.
one of the things that we are working on is a world where passwords are not going to be the ones that, get hacked, but you really have other biometrics that really help us secure our computing interfaces.
Microsoft sees 6.5 trillion hacking incidents per year. That's why 90% of its employees can now log into the corporate network without a password.
Why are they seeing that much? Why are they seeing that much? They didn't say hacking attempts, where it's like, okay, the entire world tried to hack in here, but they couldn't get past the front door. No, they said incidents, which means something ended up happening. Why are they seeing that much? If everybody is employing security best practices at all times, everything is hardened, systems are hardened, network is hardened, why are they seeing that much? Even for them, a gigantic, non-moving target like them. Really makes me wonder. But I'm supposed to trust them to partner up with anybody else to try to make me more... I'll worry about my own security, thanks.
We are on a mission to be passwordless, and we've built passwordless technology into the OS. And we tell customers, of course, that it's much more secure than actual passwords because about 70% of phishing attacks today still are caused by stolen passwords. So what we recommend is that customers use biometrics. At Microsoft, we use Windows Hello for Business. I look at my computer to log on in the morning. That's how I authenticate. If I'm on my phone, I'm using my thumbprint. We don't see our passwords anymore because that is the user and the password are the weakest link in your security system.
Microsoft introduced Windows Hello to customers in 2015, with its devices running Windows 10. Windows Hello allowed users to ditch the password and log into their devices with just their face, fingerprint, or PIN. Like FIDO, Microsoft has said it stores user biometrics on the device instead of on a cloud. In 2018, Microsoft announced that it would...
Pins. Okay. Well, pins are what? Like at least four numbers long? Seriously, pins? If you're worried about passwords, how easy is it to hack pins? Usually, if not always, numbers, and probably only about 4 to 6 long.
Support logging into Windows 10 with FIDO2 compatible devices, such as hardware keys made by Yubico.
We've been on a mission to eliminate passwords altogether. And we're focusing on passwordless login experience that's both secure and user-friendly. And we've seen a lot of success with our Authenticator app for consumer, and so we'll bring that to Azure AD.
Microsoft Authenticator is an app that allows users to take advantage of two-factor authentication on any device, not just those running Windows 10. Alex Simmons, Vice President of Microsoft's Identity Division, said in a tweet that the company has more than 80 million unique monthly users that sign in with a passwordless method. Apple's been encouraging the use of biometric authentication since it came out with Touch ID on the iPhone 5S back in 2013. The company called Touch ID the gold standard for consumer device biometric protection, until it introduced Face ID on the iPhone 10 in 2017.
And the data for Touch ID has been 1 in 50,000, meaning that the chance that a random person could use their fingerprint to unlock your iPhone has been about 1 in 50,000, and it's been great. So what are the similar statistics for Face ID? 1 in a million.
Woo! 2017. Now, wasn't that the same time where a bunch of videos were popping up on YouTube of identical twins literally hacking, not hacking, but literally getting into their brother or sister's phone just by looking at their face? I mean, just by holding it up to their face. And I believe that's the exact same time that, again, more videos were coming up of people trying to get into their own phone with their face and it not working. Okay. Who knows? Maybe they needed to clean the sensor off. Maybe there was too much, whatever.
Back in 2016, Apple also introduced Auto Unlock, a feature for Mac OS.
Today, when you first approach your Mac to use it, the experience is something like this. You open it up, you're confronted with a password field, and then you type, and then maybe mistype, and then retype your password, and then you're in and using your Mac. But for many of us, we already have a device securely authenticated to our wrists that already knows who we are and could tell our Mac. And so then, when we opened our Mac, it could be a little bit more like this.
In its guidelines to app developers, Apple stresses that apps should support biometric authentication whenever possible, and that apps should only ask for a username and password as a fallback if the first method fails. Google has also been working to make passwords a thing of the past.
Or give people the option. For those of us who like to keep our passwords and keep using that, give that to us. For those of us who want more convenience and security and privacy be damned, well, let them go off.
The company has required its employees to use physical security keys since early 2017 and has seen a huge reduction in phishing. In August of 2018, the company released Titan to consumers. Titan is a physical key that allows users to take advantage of two-factor authentication on their computers or smartphones. In 2019, Google announced that phones running Android 7 would all come with a built-in security key using Bluetooth. A few months later, Google extended that function to iOS devices. meaning that iPhone and iPad users could now use their secondary Android smartphones as a security key whenever logging into their Google account on an iOS device. While Microsoft's Windows 10 devices and Google's new Android devices are FIDO 2 certified, Apple has been slower to adopt the standard in its products. Even though Touch ID and Face ID made biometric authentication the norm for unlocking our phones, Apple's devices are still not FIDO certified, but Apple is making strides.
Of late, Apple's been supporting...
Actually, before it keeps going, you know what? I guess that I wouldn't have a problem with. If you have something like a key where it's not taking your biometrics, I'm very wary of that biometrics thing. Just like I'm wary of any kind of implanted microchips or whatever. Anything that might want to try to scan our DNA or whatever in the future. I believe that's coming. But if you just have a key, okay, fine. Key just like any other key. Problem is that shit can get lost just like any other key, just like your house keys. But there's always a risk with everything, right? That okay, fine. I'll take that. Hell, if the company wants to give me that, fine. It's linked to me, whatever, and then I log in with that, fine. But you want my biometrics to be stored on some device? No, that's okay. No, thank you.
Supporting FIDO technology both on iOS and on macOS. So the latest versions of their operating system support FIDO, meaning that if you're accessing a website that supports FIDO on an Apple device, you'll be able to leverage FIDO authentication as well. If you're accessing a website that...
Sorry, I was just being nosy. This man has $78 in his card. I was just, sorry.
Supports FIDO on an Apple device, you'll be able to leverage FIDO authentication as well.
The Department of Justice has also been moving away from password authentication. The agency adopted a single sign-on method back in 2017.
One of the reasons why passwords persist is that they are universal. They can be used by anyone. There are no limitations. There's no special hardware requirements. You don't have to have a certain kind of phone or a certain kind of laptop. Anyone can use passwords.
There are a few key challenges to really moving beyond being dependent on passwords. One of them is technical, right? And that's what FIDO has been seeking to address. And we've now created the technical standards that are web standards for authentication that is not dependent on password. Another challenge is behavioral. We've been trained with this risky way of authenticating using passwords. We'll have to be untrained to use simpler but new mechanisms for logging in. So I think there will be some behavioral changes that need to take place, some education. The good news is these are changes for the better and for the simpler. And so we think that people will embrace these changes at the same time as the new technologies roll to market to enable us collectively on the whole to move beyond passwords.
I think it'll be more accepted by the non-knowledgeable, whatever you want to call it. Once we stop hearing every 2 seconds of this data breach, that data breach, and yet these companies are coming out with new ways to supposedly secure us when they couldn't even secure us with the old ways. But of course, I guess you could come with the argument, oh, well, if the old ways work so well, then why come with new ways? That's true. Although, again, just like I've been saying, the old ways would still work if people would just not be lazy. So what is it about the new ways that's going to allow people to be lazy, as they're going to be anyway, and not fail just like the old ways did? Again, world's most secure door, left wide open because you're too lazy to lock and shut it, to shut and lock it, right? For the knowledgeable people, like my level and above, where we actually know what the hell, I think once you make this thing open source, right, so that people can look at the coding and look at what's going where and which external system is getting dialed in or whatever, okay, which scripts are running, whatever. I think once you make it open source and you get from the community that is more security and privacy centered, you all know the kind of communities I'm talking about. I think once they give the go-ahead, then you will get us, right? But I honestly think that those are the two things that are honestly stopping you. The regular people, the civilians, they're tired of hearing that all of their data got either intentionally given away to some firm or that it got hacked away because whatever, right? And then for us non-civilians, let's see the source code on this. Right? Yeah, you know. And then for us niche group people, it's like, hey, let us be able to load this program to be able to do this thing on anything, because I kind of like the way this flash drive looks and yours looks like crap. So whatever, but that's something different. I think that's what's going to be needed, though.
Say that getting rid of the password will be a long journey, especially when it comes to getting people to ditch their bad habits.
The consumer approaches will be very much opt-in. In other words, if users actually want strong authentication, companies will be able to provide to them. But just because it's available doesn't mean that every customer is going to go for it. You may now need to start collecting information about the user, like a mobile phone number that you need to use to communicate with them. And perhaps users don't want to provide that information, or they're reluctant to. On the consumer side, I believe passwords will be slower to get rid of, which also means that the risk of breaches of consumer sites will persist for the foreseeable future.
There is no shortage of consumers that do not want a lot of the information that our phones are collecting to collect. Like they don't want to give it out. Like if the average person takes their iPhone or Android or whatever, right, and actually looks at some of the permissions that a lot of these apps that are on there, forget the built-in ones, just the ones you download want. Yeah. Okay, but yet it still happens. So I don't really think they care whether we want our information given away or not. All right? Or else they would make apps that automatically get whatever information they need when they need it and then turn themselves off and don't keep the permissions, right? But that's just me. Anyway, moving right along to what I said I was going to do. I damn near ended this video and I'm like, oh, I didn't even finish that part yet. Okay, so here is how we do this. Here's how you make secure passwords. Secure passwords. Follow along. Do I need? Yeah, I'll keep that. This is a big enough screen. So you text file, simple text file. Just I don't know. User name. Nope, can't do that. Password. Done. Okay, whatever. Just whatever. Okay. So we got into here. Just pick one. I don't know. Shit. Bank account. Right? So you have your bank account here. Hopefully you all can see this because this thing should be big enough. So we go to here. We go to a website called Strong Random Password Generator. Here we go. Now here's an interesting thing. If you want to be able to just do this, whoops, and click the whole thing at once, then you can't have the special characters. But if you want to make it quote unquote more secure, then you're going to need the special characters. Anyway, let's say this bank account, the password, username, we put username, and you just know the format. The top one is username, the bottom one is password. So username is don't trust none of y'all. None ya all. Right. Don't trust none of y'all. Okay. Password length. See that? It goes from weak 15, strong 16 characters is the minimum. And then somewhere along here, somewhere here. Unbelievable. It's 256, 2048 is the max. Okay. I don't know of anything that allows 2048 characters. All right, so let's just go with 50 character password. Okay, we're going to include this, include numbers, yes, include lowercase, uppercase, exclude similar characters, yeah, exclude ambiguous, yeah, because some places don't want that. Do not send over across the internet, generate on your device, yes, that is local. Auto select it, yes. Save my preferences, well, that doesn't really matter here because I have Firefox set to not save anything, so there's that. One other thing, whoops, for the JavaScript, let me put that on. Boom, make sure this works. And I don't know what this one is, so that's, okay, so let's do it. Boom, there you go, that's it. So take this, it's already selected, and let's just say it wasn't selected, right? It's not selected, okay. All right, whatever. And that's it. That is it. You put this password, see that? Now, if we removed the special characters and tried it again, now you can select the whole thing. But when there's special characters, you can't. You have to manually do that. So it depends on your preference, right? So there's this. So here is my password, 16, wait, hold on, 16, whoops. I thought that looked a little small. Let's go with 50. 50, done, done. There we go. You think if you employ security best practices, anybody's going to be able to hack that? 50 characters. You put that into, okay, let's just, I don't know. Here's how this works. So you have your bank account, you have it there, sign in, username, done, done, password, select all that, done. And of course, if you're wondering how I'm able to select and everything because you don't see me right clicking, you do this and then you do Control C to copy, and then wherever you want to paste it, Control V. And of course, if you want to select all, you push Control A and it selects it all. Then Control C to to copy, Control V, right? So there you have it. That is how I've done it for all my passwords. I have it actually right here, username and passwords, shortcut to this, which is a shortcut to my flash drive. That's BitLocker, but it's unlocked right now, so I'm not going to click on this, or else you'll see all my actual usernames and passwords. But I have at least 50 different usernames and passwords for various accounts that I have all over the place, and they're all like this. I find out what the maximum amount of characters is that the password field for whatever site I'm on takes, and then I go and fill it here. So I dare say, yeah, this is strong. And to prove it, let us go to Password Analyzer. Let's see. Password. Or password strength. Yeah, strength checker, done. Password strength checker. And this was a 50 character password with all the stuff, right? Let's put on the appropriate JavaScript just to make sure. This thing is not secured. It is not secured by HTTPS. Okay, that's whatever. Google announced. Nope, they don't need to know that. Kaspersky Labs. Okay, that's fine. There we go. Look at this. Boom. 100% score, very strong. Right? Done. Versus, I don't know, 8 characters. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Okay, let's throw a special character in there. Boom. Now it's supposedly strong, but 72%. That's not going to beat 50 characters. There you go. So that's how you do that. You can save it. Using a save. Okay, it's right here. And then this, you can put inside like a flash drive or something like I have. And then BitLocker that. So here it is. Okay, let's just say you had 1 million passwords for everything here. All like this, where you can just, nobody's hacking this. Nobody with the means to actually be able to hack this is going to actually hack it. Okay, it's not going to be financially feasible, time-wise feasible, just resources feasible. So you know you're secured on your end. You dump this file into a BitLockered flash drive. And I did that, and I have on the BitLocker. See, in fact, I'll do it right now. I'll do it right here, right now. Terra storage, that's not in. Needs the BitLocker. "16 characters in." There you go. And now I can get into my storage. It's the exact same password for my Flash 10, my flash drive, where I have my actual password thing saved. But the point is, all of these passwords are now secured behind this, so I don't have to remember them all, but I still have the security there. This might look like a lot, but it's, number one, it's really simple. You know, and number two, if you want security, this is what you have to do. Now, the convenient thing would be to save it inside the browser or whatever, but that's not the best practice now, is it? It's convenient, not the best practice. So there you go. That's it. This right here. If everyone did this, from organizations right down to whoever the hell else, to individual people, you would not have a problem with passwords. You wouldn't. Anyway, that's just me. What do I know? Hey, they're credentialed experts that probably say otherwise, but I don't know anybody who's properly credentialed that's going to go against what I just showed you. Right? So that's just me. Anyway, that's that. Now you know how to secure yourselves with your passwords and stuff. Do this for anything that requires a password. Again, I mean, I'd love to show you mine as an example, but then I'd have to go change every password, and I'm not about to do that. But yeah, so let's see, bank account, credit card accounts, your emails. Each one of my emails has a different, I think, 16-digit random thing. What else? My 401k account, I think that also has one. Newegg has one. Facebook, YouTube, Google, Amazon, eBay, they all have one. Every single thing that needs a password, I go to this step and create a password for them. I have literally over 50. And they're all secured under one password that I can remember, and nobody's going to be able to guess. So yeah, and it's all BitLocker too. So there's that. Anyway, that's it. There you go. This video here, where is it? Is wrong, but people are going to believe it because, well, they're the experts and you're just some random fuck on YouTube. So follow who you want to follow. Later.